no. Oh no.
Oh, there is so much fun.
Will plug-in hybrid four-wheel drives ever be useful in Australia?
We're going to find out by taking 3 of the latest plug-in hybrid dual cab utes on an epic 2,000-kilometre road trip out there to the Simpson Desert.
Yeah, after 20 Ks, down to 50% battery already.
Cannon power! Oh no!
Oh no! The top of Big Red's right here.
It actually sounds a bit stressful, these EV cars.
Doesn't like it, does it? It might not make it, this thing. We all know where you guys want to use your four-wheel drives, and it ain't here in the middle of the city. Hybrid and electric technology's been around for a long time and it's proven to work quite well in our cities.
But can they actually survive when you take them out into the bush? And will they ever replace our current petrol and diesel four-wheel drives here in Australia?
To answer the question, we've got our hands on 3 of the latest generation plug-in hybrids, and we're going to test them full drive 24/7 style. We're going to do over 2,000 kilometres, leaving from Brisbane, going all the way to the Simpson Desert. Now, it's going to be an epic drive. We're not just going to be taking all the highways, though. We're going to do a bunch of different driving conditions.
Really going to be putting these vehicles to the test, and we're going to be towing a nice caravan as well.
2.5 tonnes worth of van, so it's going to really test these vehicles out. And to keep a level playing field through these vehicles, we've actually fitted the same Cooper tyres across the board.
So, just what the heck is a plug-in hybrid? PHEV is short for plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. They have both a small petrol engine and electric motors that are attached to a rechargeable battery system. The whole goal is to be insanely fuel efficient and reduce emissions. You can run them as a full-time EV if you're doing short trips and plugging them in at home or at charging stations to charge them, using virtually no fuel at all. However, they have limited range on batteries alone, around 100 Ks. So the petrol engine kicks in to charge your battery on longer trips. The petrol engine can also drive the vehicle when you need extra power for overtaking, towing, higher speeds, or more load off-road.
Not all PHEVs are built the same, so before we hit the blacktop, we're going to test out their differences on a cheeky bit of four-wheel drive track just out of Brisbane. Found for us by our good mate James from New Tracks. Feels like I'm in a rally car. There's no dampening on the throttle, it's all or nothing.
Sean's rig for the trip, the BYD Shark, is the most futuristic of the bunch, with an electric motor at each axle to give drive to the wheels, and electronic trickery in place of lockers and low range.
That just went from 0 to 100 really quick.
The petrol, by far the smallest of the convoy, at a tiny 1.5 litres, is only connected to the front wheels. All-wheel drive action.
I'm behind the wheel of the GWM Cannon Alpha. On paper, this vehicle is the best of both worlds.
Low range. Oh, what a show off.
With a traditional four-wheel drive powertrain with a transfer case, lockers front and rear, and low range. But also the biggest EV battery, best torque numbers, and the longest claimed range of the lot.
As far as four-wheel driving goes, this one should be the most capable out of every vehicle here.
Right down at the shallow end of the PHEV pool is the Ford Ranger, wheeled by our mate Jamie from Penrite Oils. It's the closest to a traditional four-wheel drive, with the biggest petrol engine, the smallest EV motor, and an onboard battery that's just a third of the size of the Cannon and Shark.
It's a Ranger with a bit of hybrid capabilities. It's also the most expensive of the 3 of our vehicles.
Is it really?
Hello, GWM. Wind the front windows up. Easy. I could have just done it with my fingers, but that was fun.
We've brought a support crew of diesels along with us for the journey, with James navigating and, as in the Big 79, carrying a lot of our supplies. But to keep the hybrids honest, the camera crew have opted to bring along a stock turbo diesel Hilux GR Sport, which we'll be using to compare figures against throughout the journey.
With all the PHEVs claiming insane fuel ranges on a single tank of fuel, we're expecting to be halfway to Birdsville before we need to fill up. But by the time we hit Toowoomba, the PHEVs are out of juice.
Well, we've got a long way to go, but we're only 100 Ks out of Brisbane at the moment and I'm out of juice, so I'll need to recharge first. Give it some power in that battery. How does this work? Okay, I've got to go backwards a bit. You've got to get really close to these things. It doesn't help when you've got a ute tray, but...
To get the kind of range we're after over the thousands of Ks ahead, the massive onboard batteries need to be charged via mains.
Embarrassing. Yes, this is the one. Port A, B, unlock. Yes, sir. Ah, there's another one. Hang on. I've used the wrong one. This is BYD cable. Station 401, this one's not in service. Station under investigation. We apologise for the inconvenience. That's okay, I've got all day. Now, that's just to plug into the power point. Ugh. So it's pretty obvious I'm not an expert yet at the BYD, but these are the facts. I've apparently got a range of 800 kilometres, I'm 100-ish kilometres out of Brisbane. I've got a quarter of a tank of fuel and I'm out of battery. So something's not quite right at the moment. And hopefully I can find a plug. Nah, I don't think I've got that cord. Well, we're going to the next charging station. Hopefully this one is in order because we desperately need some charge in our battery. It's a brave new world.
I've got 19% battery, so I'm below a quarter on the battery, and I've got 106 Ks of fuel range. So I'm below a quarter on the fuel tank. All right, just plug him in, start. And there you go. So I'm gonna sit here for an hour and 15 minutes.
Soon, Sean arrives and tries to piggyback off my charger.
Oh, won't let me use port B.
Is it?
Nah, it says port A. Station owner has been notified of intermittent faults at port B. Can't I just have a crack?
But so it's not working at all?
No. Nah, you're in use, and this one here's got faults.
Well, I've got to wait here for an hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, that's cool. I'll just wait for you to do the hour, and then I'll
you
jump
do
in
an
for an hour.
I'll fuel up while you're doing your hour. We've only got another 2,000 Ks to go, so I reckon if we get 50 Ks in today, the Savo, that'd be good.
Surely we're doing something wrong. Charger unavailable. I'm not having a good run.
We're learning. This is new technology for us.
A lot of waiting.
Coffee?
The boys are over there charging the vehicles at the moment. They're on fast charge. The Ranger doesn't have that option, unfortunately. We're going to be driving mainly on petrol. We'll see how that goes. It does charge on the fly. Fuel figures about 11 litres, 100 Ks, so we're doing okay today.
So for everyone playing at home while the boys are charging up over there, I've filled up Big Bit 79 here and I'm carrying 260 litres of fuel. So I'm thinking, you know, that took me 10 minutes to fill up and I was in and out. And I'm thinking probably about 1,400 kilometres. So I might just about make it all the way to Birdsville without having to touch the thing. So we'll see how we go though.
Just goes to show you, you know, if you want to get somewhere, you really need to rely on the tried and true old trucks of the day, you know? Don't worry about that. It's just a bit of maintenance. It's all good.
After finally tracking down a working charger at a golf course of all places, and with everyone fueled up and supplied, it's time to run the rigs over the weight scale. The PHEVs are running very basic camping setups with a swag, some camping gear and a few supplies. And with a GWM of around 3.5 tonnes, claimed a payload capacity of between 685 and 795 kilos.
You are 3.2 tonnes.
3.2?
Yep.
The addition of the batteries and EV engines hugely cuts into the 3.5 tonne max GWM of the three hybrids, and the Cannon is the heaviest of the three. It's quite confronting just how heavy these vehicles are relatively stock. What do you reckon, Jock?
I reckon 3.18.
3.22. Very heavy, considering you've got not much in. He doesn't even carry the groceries. Do you have a fridge?
No.
No fridge. There's like practically no touring gear, and you're still 3.22.
So I'm like 200 kilos off GWM.
Now,
but at the time I put a van on the back as well.
Well, you got about 200 kilos of towable weight on the back of that.
Yeah, so I'm at GWM towing.
So you can have no passengers if you tow a caravan.
Luckily the car pretty much drives itself.
Lucky he's got no mates. Sorry.
No, that's good.
Sorry.
Despite having the heaviest battery of the three, the Ranger seems to fare slightly better on the scales.
2.9. 2.9. So 2700 standard, but keep in mind, first in there, tank of fuel, plus just a bit of camping gear, not much. There's a fridge in the back, but you know, you've still got about 600 kilos to play with. That's not too bad. That's probably the best of the bunch so far.
Between us and Birdsville lies 1,500 k's of outback highways and gravel roads, and the chance to test out how the hybrid's claimed fuel economy stacks up against real-world driving. But almost immediately, there's another bombshell.
We've taken off this morning bright and early. We're precisely 20 kilometres out of town. Now, the big problem with being 20 kilometres out of town and realising that you've only got 50% of your battery left. Now, I woke up really early to make sure I was fully charged, full of fuel, and ready to tow the caravan. And yeah, after 20 k's outside of town, I'm down to 50% battery already, which is very alarming. I've got a fair bit of fuel left, there's no doubt about that. I'm only 20 k's out of town. But I started off with an 800 kilometre range and I'm down to 724. So I've effectively lost about 50 k's off my range within 20 k's. It sounds like this engine's doing about 3,500 RPM. It's revving so much at the moment. That petrol motor is acting like a generator and trying to recharge that battery. So it's working really, really hard. Now I am towing the van, of course, so it is putting a lot more stress. But again, I haven't been going over 100 k's. I've been sitting on about 90 average speed, even less at times, trying to get the best economy out of this vehicle. Stay tuned for another update. As the BYD battery decreases, so does the torque. So the vehicle prioritises keeping around 50% state of charge while towing. And that leaves the little 1.5 petrol engine to do all the heavy lifting. In less than 2 hours, it's game over.
Just listening to the boys on the radio, it actually sounds a bit stressful, these EV cars. You know, we're 175 kilometres out of the last town and we're already filling up. It's crazy.
Righto, so 45 litres out of a 60 litre tank. Not fantastic. It's going to take a long time to get to where we need to get to. So I might give the caravan up and let someone else have a tow.
So what am I doing here? It's about recovery. So when these cars fail, you're gonna need something to pull them out, and the official PHEV recovery car.
With a 3.5 tonne tow rating and a turbocharged 2.3 litre engine to complement its EV motor, the Ranger should be the most comfortable towing. But once again, its predicted range is very optimistic.
The range, when I started, said it was going to do 600 k's, which we were sceptical of. Exactly 300 k's since we fueled up. We have 10 k's range left, so that is cutting it as fine as you ever want to cut it. I'll tell you, that's range anxiety. I've got sweaty palms.
Despite the largest battery in the convoy and a 3.5 tonne towing capacity, the GWM Cannon Alpha returns the worst towing figures of the three.
Right now, with the van on the back, I'm averaging around 26.5 litres per 100 and 5.5 kilowatt hours per 100 to around 28.2 litres per 100. So if this is accurate, it means that right now I'm getting similar fuel figures to, say, Graham's Y62. There is one thing that is doing my head in when you're towing in this vehicle, and that is some of the emergency features. You need to turn them off. Even when you indicate to, say, overtake someone, it still wants to keep you in the lane and it wants to fight you to bring it back in. It can be dangerous when you're towing.
When not towing, the performance of the PHEVs at highway speeds is, well, to say it in one word, underwhelming. After 2 days playing around with the many driving modes and battery settings, the best fuel returns we can get out of the Shark and Cannon are around 11 and 12 litres per 100. But Jamie has found a better way to save fuel in the Ranger.
We're about 100 k's from where we last fueled up, using about 10 litres 100 k's currently. I found the best way to get the best fuel consumption is just using EV later. It's basically driving on the petrol engine. If we use the auto EV, it drains the battery pretty quick, about 50% of the battery in a 25-minute window. And unlike the other cars, we can't fast charge anywhere with this vehicle, so you kind of need to plug and play at night time in a caravan park or at a motel. If you switch to the EV charge mode while you're driving along, your fuel consumption goes up to 18, 19, 20 litres 100 k's, which isn't really very fuel efficient, and it takes a long time to charge. I found yesterday, a 3-hour stint, we only got about 30% power back in the battery. volts. Definitely need to plug it into 240 volt. Otherwise, the fuel consumption doesn't justify charging it on the fly.
More surprising even than the fuel figures is how little the onboard batteries contribute to extending highway range. And as we pass the final fast charger in Charleville, we make a big decision.
This is the last charge up before we start heading right into the outback, and I'm not even going to bother charging the BYD, and the reason why, as soon as I charge it, I'm going to experience some pretty decent fuel economy as it burns that battery down.
Yep.
After about an hour, that battery is going to be basically needing to replenish itself, so I can save some for camp. It's actually pointless for me to try and waste 40 minutes right now to charge to try and save 2 litres per 100 for the first hour, and then I just go back to normal fuel economy after that. If you were just going to hang around Charleville for the week and drive to the shops every now and again, I would 100% charge that, and I'd enjoy the fuel savings. I could probably get around 2 or 3 litres to the 100 if I was just going on battery. That's where the benefit of charging comes in, not on the big drives.
For sure.
$960 k's out from Toowoomba, the big MIT 79 finally empties its sub-tank.
I'm running at 17 litres per 100, sipping on fuel.
But the PHEVs are facing competition from an unexpected direction.
This is a 35-year-old car. We're on 35s. We're fully loaded right up to our GWM. There's no electronic tuning or optimization of the engine of any kind. In fact, I tuned this car and I did it with a screwdriver. We traveled today from Roma to Quilpie, which is 478 kilometers. I've just now put into the car 57.58 litres. That's about 12 litres per 100 kilometers. Maybe, if you want to plan for the future, you need to be investing in the past.
The true winner of the highway test, though, is right up front. Yep, the Camera Crew's turbo diesel Hilux has beaten the bunch, returning a tidy 9.5 litres per 100 and 18 litres per 100 towing, giving the crew plenty of range thanks to an 80 litre fuel tank.
After a stressful few days watching the fuel and battery gauges dropping, we've made it to the tiny outback town of Windora. It's different, and when you can go full electric when you cruise around.
Oh yeah. Ahead of us lies the start of the gravel, and more importantly for the PHEVs, the longest stretch so far without fuel.
So heading off to Birdsville this morning, got about 400 Ks. The guys in the old PHEVs are up for a bit of a challenge.
Last fuel stop for quite a long while. Grabbing a couple of Jerry's, throw in the back, and I'm also going to top up the tank. My battery is about 70%, so we should be good. We'll see. Hey, there's a sign there that says 4-drive only. Are you sure you're going to be right?
Does it say anything about all-wheel drives, mate?
Oh, I'm not sure, but there's a bloke up here who's checking that you've got a transfer case, so we might have to see how we go.
It's all right, I'll run out of fuel before I get there. At last, 1,300 Ks out from Brisbane, we hit a landmark we've all been waiting for. Here we go, just like that, we've hit the dirt.
Now the real outback begins. Time to put these vehicles to the test properly.
To maximise our range today, we're limiting our speed to 80 kilometres an hour.
At this pace, all the PHEVs see some big improvements in both litres per 100 and the ability to keep their batteries at a reasonable state of charge.
Now I've hit the dirt towing the caravan with the BYD. I'm pretty happy with how it performs, really. The tow's really nice. The only thing that lets this down is the range that you have. Doing a lot better towing, mind you, than last time because I'm sitting at 75 to 80 Ks an hour. And I think that's the sweet spot for this vehicle. It's pretty slow, but that's the only way I can really get good fuel economy out of it. The Ranger could probably just about scrape through 400 Ks towing at these slower speeds, but after 200 clicks, the BYD is down to a quarter of a tank, and once again has to swap out with another rig. Righto, you've got the caravan on the back now. How do you think you're going to go? Do you reckon you'll make it to Birdie?
I've just got 3/4 of a tank and I've got 3/4 of a battery. I'm curious to see, how'd the big BYD go?
I've got less than a quarter of a tank of fuel left. It's saying I've got a range of 235 Ks and it's approximately 200 Ks to Birdsville.
Yeah, roger that, mate. We should just make it. The range on This vehicle's already gone down by 5 kilometres, so we'll see how we go, eh?
Fingers crossed, mate.
It's hard to believe that just a few months ago, this place was practically an ocean. But as we near Birdsville, there's plenty of floodwater still to be seen.
Amazing how much water's on this track. Insane. Never seen the desert with so much water around.
Well, this is giving me flashbacks already.
Flash, Jocko. I cannot see a thing. Well, at least we got a wash.
Well short of the 400k mark, the BYD's range hits 0, and then something weird happens. Righto, it's 30k's to go to Birdsville. I'm on 0 fuel, and I was on 0 battery as well. Now the battery is starting to increase. So it's gone up from 0 to 6 kilometres, and somehow I'm making power. I don't know how, but I think I've got this. I reckon I'm going to make it to Birdsville. See, it's making battery.
How?
I think the motor is just acting as a pure generator. It's not putting any drive to the wheels, and it's just using battery power, I think.
If it's making power, then I'll see you there.
I know it won't be good for the rest of the trip. I'll probably don't need to fuel up.
At 70 to 80 k's an hour, it turns out the PHEVs are able to use their EV motors a lot more than at highway speed, allowing the petrol engine to focus more on charging the battery as needed instead of powering the wheels full time. And the result is both better fuel economy and more juice going back into the battery. And sure enough, we soon roll up to the edge of town with battery to spare.
We've made it to Birdsville by some miracle. I can't believe I've got 50% battery too. It's been going up the whole last little bit in, so I reckon we'll find a bit of a camp.
Mate, pretty amazing. I reckon these PHEVs have done pretty well, and yeah, I've got 80% battery, and I'm keen to test that battery out at camp. And I'm camping with a bit of luxury too, with the van in tow. So yeah, lead the way and let's get a good spot for the night.
It's wild that those things are actually charging themselves. I'm actually amazed.
And the range is at 80% battery and used 9.1 litres 100 k's. Went pretty well.
That's pretty impressive. We're all pretty excited for the chance to test out how these PHEVs are to camp out of over the next few days, especially as they come with auxiliary power essentially built in. Now, as a petrol electric hybrid vehicle, I mean, the range isn't phenomenal. One thing I do love about this vehicle is the fact that it has a huge battery bank. So much so that you don't really need a dual battery system. You see, I'm running my fridge straight off 240 volt, mind you. I've got 3 10 amp plugs in the back here. Got another one inside the vehicle. In combination, they can actually discharge at 6.8 kilowatts, which is enough power to really run a whole house for a few hours. So that's pretty crazy stuff. One of the things you do need to worry about though, you've got to leave your vehicle turned on if you want to access these plugs and be able to use these to run your fridge. So because my fridge has been turned on the whole trip, I haven't turned the vehicle off at all except for refueling. And if your beers keep cold, I'm all ears.
Out of all the plug-in hybrids on the test, the GWM Cannon has the biggest battery, 37 kilowatts, but there is a bit of an issue if you're planning to use it for camping. So to utilize the battery, I actually need to plug in to the discharge port like that, and they give you a power board like this. But the problem is you can't drive with it sticking out like this. So if you might notice I'm not running a fridge or anything in the back, and that's because the only way to discharge from the battery separately to drive in the vehicle is when this is plugged in. I think that's a bit of an oversight because you've got a massive battery here and there's also no ports in the tub to plug into. So it's disappointing you can't even plug, say, a fridge in like Sean's got. Another thing you'll notice is this is where the spare tire is. Now this is a factory option because the battery is put where this would normally sit. There's no space for it anymore, so that tire has to go in the tub and you lose a bit of usable space. There is one thing I do like about this tub though, and that is the dual opening tailgate. So you hold it down and press it, it'll open like a normal tailgate, but if you press it once, it's supposed to open. So you press it once and it'll open like a Oh, there we go. Maybe it has a bit of dust in the mechanism or something, but it means that you can get into the tub just that little bit easier and get your gear. I do really like that, but the fact that the battery is pretty much useless at camp unless you plug into that outlet port, I think that's an oversight.
The Boss Caravan, of course, comes with a bunch of luxury features, including air conditioning, and I found a cheeky way to power it.
I brought this Super Flash Caravan, but I can't actually plug it into my vehicle because the Caravan outlet's a 15 amp and it's only 10 amp on the Cannon. Fortunately, the Ranger has 15 amp outlets. However, it's only got an 11 kilowatt hour battery, so at max draw, it'll last less than 2 hours. But what Jamie doesn't know won't hurt him, right?
For the diesel vehicles in the crew tonight, it's business as usual. But over at the PHEVs, we're getting creative.
Well, this of course is the other benefit of having a vehicle with a battery pack and also mains power all over it. I can run induction cooker.
How good is this, mate?
Well, you know what, I was going to cook on the fire, but I thought, why not use technology when it's available?
Well, these are the latest craze having induction. You can just buy a BYD.
When you have a 12-volt system, you need quite a fancy 12-volt system to run something like this.
You do, yep.
If you've got a big setup, you might have 200 amp hours of battery, right? You'll go through that pretty quick when you start to use high draw current appliances like these ones. I've even lost 1% of my battery. Got the fridge going, and obviously the induction's cranking along as well.
So buy a BYD, get your induction cooker. Would you say this is your favourite feature?
Yes.
Because I've just found my favourite feature on my car. You ready? It's a jingle every time it locks. You can keep doing it.
It freaks me out, that car.
Anyway, I'm going to leave you with that and get home with this.
Stop doing that.
Well, you know, Shauno's looking pretty fancy over there at the back of the BYD, cooking up on an induction. But the thing is, it's actually my induction cooker that he stole because the boys haven't really bought any gear to go camping with. So I thought I'd let him borrow that, cook up those snags, and I'll get this going out of the 79 here. I'll get you boys going. I got yours.
You are the man.
Boys, we've made it to Birdsville. We've done about, what, nearly 2,000 Ks under our belt so far.
Big couple of days.
We've got everything from GQs to 79s, a range of different hybrid vehicles, and the results aren't that different between them.
No, I was honestly coming into this expecting it to be some completely freakish thing.
I thought I would be single digits for sure in fuel economy, but I'm being a bit blown away that it's not like that. But the real test is tomorrow. We're going to leave, obviously, the highway, leave the dirt roads and get into a bit of low range stuff.
Yeah, I'm keen for that because, as we've said before, the Cannon is twin locked from factory. I'm keen to actually put it to the test and see if it can do some good stuff off-road.
Exactly. I'm a bit worried I don't actually have a low range gearbox, but if I can keep up with you boys, it'll say a lot for an all-wheel drive vehicle. That'll be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. Have you got recovery points on that thing, mate?
Mate, you don't worry about it. You just stay behind me and I'll pull you through anything. Don't worry about that. We've got Big Red, we've got sand dunes, we've got a whole stack of stuff to get through here. And don't forget, it's a fair bit of rain up here as well, so conditions are going to be a bit moist. Cheers, boys. I can't wait to do it, eh?
Cannot wait, boys.
We've been out in the Simpson Desert recently. We were amazed by the amount of water out there. Now, as you know, there's been some of the biggest flooding out here that they've seen in 60 years. Now, the devastation to the local communities has been absolutely horrendous. So we thought we'd check in with a local station and see firsthand.
We were isolated for 2 weeks. You know, it's pretty close to record flooding here, so the damage around us and a lot of other places the same. We've seen photos from the neighbours and some of their roads and stuff like that, and they're just washed out.
Well, originally we started putting gear up on top of the wool table thinking it's going to be safe there, but it kept rising.
It was under for a few days. Like we had that Toyota and grader went underwater.
When we were looking for a charity that genuinely helps out farmers, there was one that really stood out, Aussie Helpers. Now there's a really cool story behind it that really drew us in.
In the time we've been here, we've had some pretty dry times, and this time a really wet time. So Aussie Helpers, they've been there quite a bit.
They've really helped us out.
Over the years that we've been here. You ring them up and you say, oh, have you got a bit of hay or something like that? And yeah, we've got a couple of bales in here. Or
They're always there to help,
Yeah.
always there.
One of the best things about Aussie Helpers is they keep their admin fees really low. So all the money that gets donated goes straight to the farmers that desperately need help at this moment. So they provide feed for livestock, even food for families that are doing it really tough, and even school fees and all these little costs that are, sometimes forgotten about when big flooding disasters happen. But it's not just providing financial help on a one-off basis. They provide ongoing emotional support, which is so important to those guys doing it tough. So if you reckon you can help out an Aussie farmer doing it tough, jump on to aussiehelpers.org.au.
We're some of the first four-wheel drivers to make it back to Birdsville after the devastating floods that hit the region earlier in the year. And with so much water still around, the PHEVs are in for a real challenge ahead.
Here's something that's really fun when you try and sleep next to your mate. This Ford Ranger, if you want to run the stuff in the tub, like say you're running your fridge off the battery, these daytime running lights stay on. So far we've tried everything, tried to lock the car, tried turning everything off except the rear battery. These will stay on overnight. Pretty annoying, but this is an early release of these Ford Ranger hybrids, and I'm sure this is something they'll fix down the line. Right now though, that was fun to sleep next to.
Down to 36%. It's not too bad. I was at 50% when I first rocked into camp yesterday. So it's used, 15% battery, but still got heaps in the tank. Interesting fact though, you'll notice a red arc go block in the back of the tray. Now the reason I brought that along was a bit of a safety net because I wasn't super confident on how this technology was going to work. I wanted to make sure I had a fridge going 24 hours a day, but there's a little backup just in case. Pretty stoked out, everything's managed to keep in the tray. I'm using this tie gear stuff. It works really well. What I like about it, there's no mucking around with ratchets and stuff like that. You can just pull it and tension it and keeps everything in place. Nothing has moved, and I've done nearly 2,000 K so far. Good stuff, especially if you've got a ute.
So just packing up around camp here, and the benefits of having a giant canopy and being one man in this canopy is the camera boys always loading me up with extra gear, like their camera cases and everything, which is all good. Happy to help out, but yeah, we're going to pack up and get out of here.
Before we hit the desert, we're going to make one last stop for fuel. And sure enough, the BYD is running right on empty.
Oh Lee, that was close. No doubt about that. 50 litres of fuel, there it goes. I was definitely on fumes.
What was my guess? 56. Look at that.
Hang on.
With the tanks fueled up and the Boss van stowed away, it's time to hit the Simo.
At the time of filming, a full crossing of the Simo isn't possible in the wake of the massive flooding. And in fact, the last four-wheel drivers to attempt it were Jock and Jesse in their backpacker rigs.
We're 3 kilometres away across the saltway.
Our good mate Ben from the Birdsville Hotel has given us the perfect mission for the PHEVs, and that's a 200k return trip out to the northern Eyre Creek bypass to see if the crossing can be reopened for the season. Now I'm going to take these tyres down to about 16 psi, nice and low, try and give this PHEV a bit of a chance in the soft sand up in the dunes here. Now, another thing you'll notice, all of the PHEVs are actually running these Cooper ST Maxes. The reason we've chose these ones in particular, they're perfectly suited for this type of driving, for the outback roads as well as the sand dunes. The other thing worth noting about the Cooper ST Maxes, they are an all-terrain tyre, but they've got nice strong sidewalls, mainly due to the fact that it's a 3-ply, but the 3rd ply actually sits on an 8-degree angle. Gives it a lot more strength through here. It's exactly what you need in the Simpson Desert. You've got lots of bits of gidgee wood sticking out off the side of the track, and those things are as hard as nails, no joke. So we're giving ourselves the best fighting chance with some decent rubber underneath. Sand, that's what I'm gonna need.
All right, guys, first tune of the day. What do we reckon? The PHEVs, they're going to make it up?
I actually, for the first time, don't know, mate. I think it'll go all right for most of the dunes, but I think the real soft ones, that might struggle not having a full low-range gearbox and all that sort of jazz.
Well, I've got the recovery gear at the ready in case you need it, mate.
Good luck to all those PHEV boys out there. It's good to be out in the dunes again.
How's that? My fuel gauge is actually, well, you know, the computer's showing I'm using 50 litres per 100. Now that can't be right, surely. I've only got a 60 litre tank, so I won't last long out here if this is the case. But it's dropping back to 31, 37.
Yeah, the scale on the Ranger only goes to 30, and I'm the same, it's a 30.
We're having a few dramas with the computers on these vehicles and trying to get accurate fuel readings.
Thirsty PHEVs.
Very thirsty.
First proper dune. Sean's down there in the big BYD. Really keen to see how he goes, because up the top here, he gets really soft. Righto, mate, how you feeling?
Yeah, good. I feel like a bit of a passenger, mate. I've clicked one button to sand mode, and that's all I can really do in this vehicle. So, see what happens, eh?
Roger that. Sand mode, bring her up.
This is actually quite exciting. Both hands on the wheel for this one. First real big dune. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm just going to go about mid speed.
Powered direct to the wheels by dual EV motors that can deliver 650 newton meters of torque almost instantly.
Cruising up.
The BYD is no slouch out the gate, and it just powers up.
It's born for this stuff. I'll back off and just cruise over the top. That is easy. I'm genuinely shocked. There was so much more power in the tank. I could have, put my foot down and really had a go, but I didn't need to. I just sort of coasted up.
See how we go.
The GWM's low range is a bit more traditional, with the petrol engine running constantly and the EV motor providing additional power via the torque converter.
It does not feel like it's 3.2 tonnes, I'll tell you that much.
Whilst it matches the BYD and Cannon for torque, the Ranger falls short of the other PHEVs for power by around 100 kilowatts.
Oh, might need a bit more beans than that.
Despite having the largest petrol engine of the bunch. That doesn't seem to be causing it any issues though in the sand, and it just cruises on up.
Looked like they were just dropping the kids off at school. They, barely broke a sweat. It's more about the range and how long they're going to be able to keep it up is the question, I think.
As we push further into the desert, the signs of the recent flooding become more and more evident. And we know that the closer we get to Eyre Creek, the worse it's going to get. Well, so far you would have no doubt heard our opinions of these vehicles. They've got some good points, some bad points, and some we're just not sure about. The big question I want to put out there for you guys is, would you own one? Would you upgrade your current rig to something like this? Let us know in the comments below. Very keen to hear your thoughts. Hey, Jock, copy, mate?
Yeah, got you, mate.
2 entries of this dune, mate, look like they're pretty muddy. They're both covered with water, actually.
I reckon it'll be pretty soft, but you've been driving so well, mate, I reckon you'll be right.
Yeah, copy that. I reckon this is the best of the bad bunch. I'm going to chuck her into mud mode and, look, yeah, maybe just one at a time in case it is sloppy.
Yeah, copy, mate, I'll wait here. Good luck in mud mode.
There's mud. Come on. Oh no, I can't see. Oh, this is so slippery, I can't see a thing.
You stuck?
Yeah, I'm making progress on my own steam. It's real slow. It's so slippery in here. Maybe I've cleared a bit of a path. You're welcome to try the one beside me, but I reckon this is probably the best of the bunch. It's got the foot held down, letting mud mode do its thing. I'm going to make this. I can't believe it. This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. It's just somehow going forward. I can't see a thing in this vehicle. It's covered in mud. Oh, look, here we are, we're out.
Wow, I was not expecting that, man. That's pretty good.
I'll tell you what, the BYD, I won't say it ate it, but we're through.
That is fantastic. Good effort from the little BYD Shark.
What? That's the smelliest mud I've ever seen in my life. My fridge, oh, my swag, oh no. You play with mud, you're gonna get muddy.
All right, we'll see how we go. I've got the cameras in here set on wheel rut mode, so we'll see what happens.
2 lockers and low range box, mate. You should have this in the bag. I remember my first day driving too. Low range, you're gonna need low range to come out here.
Oh no, I'm not gonna hear the end of this.
Holy, you didn't even make it, didn't even start off.
Jeez, I didn't get very far. If you give us a little tug back, I'll try again. Well, I'm not doing too good for Team GWM. Thank you, boys.
I reckon the key to that vehicle, mate, treat it like a cannonball. Just fire away.
Round 2. Come on, Jocko, send it.
Here he goes.
I cannot let Sean beat me. Come on, get through. There is so much mud. Oh, there is so much mud.
He's got it. He's got it.
Twin locked cannon power.
That's how you do that. You get upper.
Wow, I covered the whole vehicle, including one of the camera boys' swags. Whoops.
All right, let's see how the big Ranger goes through the mud. They can offer rear diff locks in drive, and they have to go full send it.
That's it. Graceful.
Oh no. Oh no.
No, he's got it.
He's got it. He's got it.
Come on. Bit of left, right, good night. Now it looks like a Ford Ranger. There is no way a Nissan owner is going to let themselves be outdone by a hybrid in the mud. And James isn't holding back in the new Trax GQ. It looks in better condition now with mud on it than it did before.
That'll do.
Oh, I'm going to push the only 2 buttons I've got in here, front and rear locker. I go 3rd gear? No, second's where it's at.
That's graceful.
Oh, yeah. I am just a passenger right now in this vehicle.
Very nice.
There we go. 4 tons of fury, straight through.
I reckon that's the one you want when the desert goes to custard.
Yep.
You want something like that. Solid axle, V8, turbo, all the power.
Plenty of treats in the fridge.
And guess what? It's got a big canopy thing on the back, so all your gear gets no mud on it.
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
Like,
No, not like me. Everything's muddy.
A cross into the Simpson is an absolute bucket list trip for so many four-wheel drivers, and James is logging the route on his new Trax app.
Just making our way through the QAA line in the Simpsons. My first time driving through this section of track, and despite the fact that we've got over 170,000 users now across Australia, we don't have this track assessed in our map, which means that one of our users has not gone through here whilst recording a journey. So the way the app works is that you just need to log your journey as you're driving, and it will automatically grade the trail based on your performance along the track and the vehicle that you were driving. But we are doing that, and what that means is that by the time we're done going through the Simpson, the QAA line will have an assessed rating that everyone else can then see and make use of.
As we get closer to Eyre Creek, there's more and more water over the track.
I remember this crossing from our last time trying to get out, and it was pretty deep. There were lots of different lines to choose from though. So what we're going to do is send one of the bigger vehicles on bigger tyres through first before we send any of the hybrids through, and then from that we'll be able to maybe pick something different if it works or doesn't. Rather do that than put a shiny new BYD Shark into something that's too deep. We'll find out.
I've drawn the short straw. I'm going to try and go through this little water crossing here. I've just put on a soft shackle in anticipation of me getting stuck. Success! Second here.
I want him to take the Shark through, no doubt about it. I reckon there was perfect traction through that. It's just so deceiving, that's why we sent the big ones through. You don't know if it's about a metre of mud or it's nice and firm like that. I don't know how fast to go. It gets instant power. There's one thing about EVs is just having all that torque available straight from the get-go. There's zero lag.
It's honestly very impressive to watch and see how the cannon goes, eh? Yeah.
Well, that was a good job, PF boys. We got through the mud
I've got to say, for an all-wheel drive vehicle, the mud, the sand, nothing really phases it too much. It's been pretty decent off-road, all said and done.
Yeah, mate, I have to say, in the towing and big drive test that we did, I wasn't that blown away with how well they performed. But off-road, this thing's been pretty good so far, and having twin locked from factory is pretty good when you drive it properly.
Yeah, exactly right. And the big Ranger, it's been solid as well. It's got through everything, no fuss.
Yeah, the range is surprisingly good. Its fuel economy on the road was a bit average, but off-road it's performing really, really well. Just used the rear diff lock through that mud section and she scrambled her way through just as good as the other two.
It's that time of day, Jocko. I'm going to start looking for a good campsite. Beautiful big salt pan or flat spot over there, mate. I reckon that's home for tonight.
You read my mind, mate. That looks like perfection. I can't wait.
Unless you're trying to escape an impending flood, there really is no such thing as a bad night's camping in the Simo. And to be out here in the middle of the desert in hybrid electric vehicles is pretty damn cool. There we go. Wow. Tell you what, it's not very often you come to the Simpson Desert and you get this much mud through all your stuff. Everything I have, camping-wise, is covered in about ½ an inch of mud. One place that isn't covered in mud is inside the fridge, thank goodness. But swag, all my camping gear, recovery gear, everything, including one whole side of the vehicle, which I can't actually see out of at the moment, but conditions are fantastic in the desert at the moment. Flies are pretty friendly, but it's moments like this is why you come to the Simpson Desert. Sun's about to set over the dunes, we're gonna get a fire cranking soon, and just enjoy camp. These vehicles have done pretty good to get us here. This is something new at camp. We're just sitting down, enjoying this moment as the sun's about to set, the peaceful serenity of the Simpson Desert. My vehicle's just turned itself on. I don't know what is going on there. It was all quiet a second ago. It's got a mind of its own, these electric ones. There we go. It knows the Birdsville pub's so close. What are you on, mate? What are you on? I've turned all that off. 66%, so smart charging, what's that? We don't need that. Let's turn it off. Back on again. There's no, alright. Alright, I think we'll be right for another. It's turned on, but hopefully now the engine won't turn on.
Remember that track that we did on day one of our trip around Toowoomba? It was a green rated track, and at the time I thought that might have been a little bit too low of a rating. It probably should have been rated a little bit higher, maybe a medium. Where we were logging our trip, and as soon as we stopped logging, the platform automatically adjusted that up to a medium rating. And you can see the stats from our vehicles updated 18th of May.
It's been a cracking day in the desert with the PHEVs, but tomorrow we're going to be checking out one of the icons of the Simo after the flood, Eyre Creek. Well, boys, just to make it to Eyre Creek is going to be a mean feat on its own. There's so much water in this part of the desert. It's going to be absolutely wild. See how we get through. I reckon crack up all these ones and we'll see you tomorrow, because tomorrow's a huge day. I reckon it's going to make or break us. A full crossing of the Simpson is a bucket list item for so many four-wheel drivers, but it takes a lot of planning to pull off. With over 1,000 dunes to cross on the shortest east to west line through the desert, you have to plan for a minimum of 4 days driving and carry emergency supplies for at least the same again.
With so much fuel, water, spares and food on board, weight becomes a huge issue for any vehicle in the Simo, and that's a big problem for a PHEV.
One of the things obviously that's worth chatting about is you're carrying a lot of our stuff, and we threw these vehicles over the weighbridge the other day. They're pretty heavy.
Yeah, just off the get-go.
Most of these vehicles, their GVMs are pretty close or thereabouts to 3.5 tonne. What about putting trays and canopies on them? Because all the manufacturers have said that you can do it, but the issue there is weight, obviously.
100%.
What have you found with the weights of putting something like one of these setups on? Can you do it?
Roughly, with a touring setup like this, you know, your tray, your canopy, your fridge, few accessories and that, you're looking at about 600 kilos as a whole package.
Yeah.
So you take your tub off, they're about 130 kilos. That gives you a little bit extra. And then you got to also consider all the stuff you're going to put into it as well. You know, the Cannon over there, you put a 600 kilo train canopy on it, with you sitting in it,
Yeah, big boy.
you're way over GVM already.
Over GVM,
so
yeah, for sure.
You need a GVM upgrade on basically all of these cars. And some of these cars don't even have GVM upgrades yet. Like the Cannon, the BYD, no GVM.
You can't do it yet.
No upgrade available. The Ranger, it's been out for a long time. That does have a GVM upgrade, so it's got an advantage there. But another thing with these PHEVs, you're 500 kilos heavier than, say, the standard diesel version of it. Straight away.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to think about.
Yeah, interesting. I guess if people are planning to use these for touring and living out of, like we've been living out of your canopy, mate, it's something to factor in. Weights are probably the most important thing when it comes to touring.
That's right. And these people are going to buy that vehicle thinking that they'd be able to, you know, slap a train canopy on it straight away.
Yeah.
The reality, you just can't.
Are these the right choice for long distance touring?
They are advertised as being able to do these things. I don't know if they can though.
One thing I've noticed in the desert is the seals on the GWM are really good. It's actually, when you open the door, it opens the window here so you can actually shut the door. But over the last sort of 1,000 Ks driving on the dirt, I've noticed there's dust creeping in around the door handle. Now, it could just be an isolated one to this vehicle or something like that, but yeah, it seems to be on the car. I think this back one's doing it too. Yeah, there you go. There's a little bit there, not as bad as the front one, but it's interesting because it seems like it's sealing really well and there's dust creeping in from somewhere. Not sure where.
Not far out of camp, we hit the edge of the gatekeeper of the Simo, Eyre Creek.
Normally, the Eyre is nothing more than a dry riverbed, but right now, even a K out from the main body of the river, the road ahead looks totally impassable. Just when we thought it might be game over, one of the most capable vehicles in the Simo catches up with us.
I'm surprised they've gone this far, but obviously they're lasting.
What a weapon.
This beast right here is the Birdsville Hotel's recovery truck, a purpose-built four-wheel drive rescue weapon powered by a 7.7 litre turbo diesel, delivering a whopping 1,400 newton metres of torque.
Ben and Noah have been keeping a close eye on Eyre Creek, and today they're going to take us up to a northern crossing to see if there's any way of getting over.
You were saying, obviously, after the floods, the water's dropping every single day, and the only real way to check is by coming out here and having a look for yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, you can fly over it, but it's just much better from the ground to actually get out here and have a look at it.
The Birdsville Hotel built their rig to recover stranded adventurers from the most arduous sections of the desert, and these guys also offer a recovery assistance package that can be booked in before you hit the sand.
Let's say I'm about to cross the Simpson Desert in my 90 Series Prado. How does it work? How do I set up for the recovery?
Look, 7 days prior to your departure, jump online, birdsvillehotel.com.au, and book your Simpson Desert recovery assurance package. $495, mate, and if you break down within that recovery area, we're coming to get you.
Ben, a former mechanic, has seen just about every single breakage you can imagine in a Simo. But as for the PHEVs problems, that remains to be seen.
Righto, let's have a look at this thing, eh?
So it's turned on.
It can't hear a thing.
Yeah.
That's weird, isn't it?
It is. What do you think the biggest problems would be taking hybrids out into the desert?
Well, obviously calculating your fuel range. I mean, starting a desert crossing with a car that's a known vehicle, you can just jump on online forums and stuff like that and just watch YouTube videos, and people always talk about their fuel range and how much they carry.
Yep.
Right now, that's kind of unknown for these things, isn't it?
That's it.
The other thing is, every vehicle's got a weak point somewhere. That's unknown with these. We know what to carry with spares, you know, in a vehicle that's sold in numbers, particularly in Australia, because there's so many years and years and years of people using them in the bush. We don't know that with these things yet.
Exactly right. What's their weaknesses, what's their strengths? That's why we're doing tests like this, I suppose, to try and put them through their paces and see if they work. After an hour's drive between the dunes, we arrive at Eyre Creek's northern flood bypass, which the guys reckon will be the only way to cross the creek for some months to come. Get a load of the water in Eyre Creek, Jocko.
Oh my goodness me. That is a lot of water.
The water has been dropping by the day, but even now, it's still pretty hectic.
With a max wading depth of 700mm for the BYD and 800mm for the Ranger and Cannon, there's a definite limit to what we can attempt, and the best way to test the depth is to send in the truck.
This is pretty crazy.
but this is also a big truck. Eyre Creek, under flood, here we go. Wow, that's deep water.
In addition to the strong pull of that current, the huge off-road tyres of the Mercedes are virtually under the waterline, putting the depth of this crossing at 1 metre at least.
I think the hybrid vehicles would have no chance through here.
Yeah, look, I think we're making the right call not taking them through here. I've had enough of flooding vehicles in the Simpson Desert. I don't really fancy doing it to a hybrid.
There we go. How good's that? First vehicle through Eyre Creek after the floods. While it might be a no-go for our vehicles, the guys have at least pushed in the far bank, and they reckon within a week or so this crossing should be good to go. Well, that was pretty cool. Pretty amazing. That water was probably about that deep. No chance he would have got those vehicles through. So, very good to do it in the truck first, there's no doubt about that.
As disappointing as it is to not make it across the Eyre, there is one consolation prize for us ahead. But for that, we've got to make the long journey back out to the edge of the desert.
There we go. That dune in front of me right now is Big Red, the biggest of the sand dunes of the Simpson Desert. Driven over it in many different vehicles over the years, but never before in a hybrid electric vehicle. Let's see how it goes.
If there's one way to test out the limits of your four-wheel drive in the sand, it's gotta be Big Red. Cresting this bad boy requires momentum, power, and preferably no fancy electronics.
We are here, famous Big Red. It's finally time to see what these PHEVs can do. Righto, mate, bring her up.
Got no idea how this is going to work. Won't go mad for the first one, but let's see, eh?
Good luck. The Shark's EV motors get the power down early, but with no way to override the electronic traction control.
Let's go.
I think he's going to need more beans than that.
Sean's not sure how he'll go at the top.
Oh.
I literally backed off. Thought I was going to go airborne off the top. Turns out I had no reason to doubt the all-wheel drive system. Here we go.
Go, go, go!
And it just storms up the climb.
Yes!
And up. There we go. Up Big Red. This goes like a rocket ship, this thing. That's one benefit of EV. You just get that torque straight to the tyres.
All right.
It might be one of the heavier rigs in the convoy, but the Cannon Alpha seems to have plenty of mumbo out of the gate.
Look at him go. Look at him go.
Oh no!
Oh no! No, he hasn't stopped there, has he?
I backed off like a fracco too early. Oh, what's doing? I'm up.
No, unfortunately, the top of Big Red's right here. You've got to get to here, mate.
Oh, what a stitch up. I backed off.
So close, but yet so far. I'll just go back to Naminka, mate. Gee.
Yeah, because I can only take off in second. I just need a little bit longer to change up gears on the flappy
What
boys.
are the excuses coming out thick and fast at the moment? Oh, he's going. Look how fast he's going.
Power! Cannon power!
I think he might have cooked it. Nah, he's got it.
There we go.
He's got it.
Oh, I was just trying to back off a smidge too early so I didn't yeet over the top of the dune, but it just needed a little bit more throttle. Not bad.
Ranger's up next, and I think it'll have no dramas whatsoever. Yeah. It's the lightest of the three PHEVs, but also I reckon he can steer a vehicle, old Jamie, as well.
I reckon so.
Doing all right. He's not going that quick.
Nah, I think he needs more beans.
Yeah, I think he does.
Need more beans, brother.
A lot more beans.
That's it.
Get the can, open it up, eat some more beans.
You see what happens when you're driving a PHEV vehicle, you become responsible because you're trying to save the environment on one hand, and the second time,
exactly,
you just want to take it a little bit more conservative, a bit more conservative approach. I think something tells me the rev head's going to come out next, though. He'll get up.
Yeah, he's going to turn the electric part off and just have the engine part.
And go full environmental vandal.
We're expecting the Ranger to just sail on up over this one.
Come on, mate.
But it turns out to be not as easy as we thought.
That's it, don't back off.
More beans than that, brother.
Nah, you've got to find another gear somewhere or do something different.
Yeah, I'll try a different mode. Try sand mode.
The Ranger has a few different off-road modes to choose from, but the vehicle just keeps trying to slow itself down on the ascent.
Maybe he's got the handbrake on.
It needs more power. That's it.
It's like there's traction control on it. It's braking the car.
After a dozen attempts, the Ranger is still refusing to play ball. So while Jamie gets out the manual and looks for different mode options, it's time for the old rigs to tackle the climb.
Righto, mate. Bring her up.
Listen to that thing.
Oh, here we go. Down here. Down shift. No one's needed. Woo! No BYD, what can I say?
No BYD!
You're so close.
I might try and low range this time.
Yeah, definitely low range.
Alright, let's do it again.
Oh, big old squealy boy. That's a supercharged one. Nah, it's too slow.
No deal.
No good. Mate, I reckon on behalf of patrol owners everywhere, I think you can not get shown up by some PHEVs.
Yeah, well, that's what it looks like.
Here we go.
No GQ owner wants to be beaten by a hybrid. So James is putting the foot to the floor this time and making momentum his friend.
There we go, that's better.
Yay!
It's a great drive.
Just goes to show 30-year-old Nissan Patrol can follow some PHEVs after a few attempts.
Stakes were pretty high. That was everything it had. Everything it had. Just got to go faster.
Next up, got the big 79. Righto, it's your turn, mate.
Yeah, let's get the big dog singing, mate.
With its canopy loaded up with supplies and camera gear, the big Mitt 79 has got its work cut out to make it over the top.
Come on! Come on! She's no BYD, mate. I've said that a few times today.
Oh, I thought I had that.
Hey, if you're after a bit of inspiration, mate, just remember, you too could build your dream. Love it.
How good's that?
You gotta drive it, you gotta want it. Did exactly that.
Despite several attempts, the Ranger is refusing to budge, and even Sean can't seem to win it over.
It's like, it feels like there's some sort of traction control going on which I can't quite turn off.
As soon as you hit these little bumps, that's where you just instantly wash off speed.
Alright, I'm gonna have one more crack at this.
For this attempt, I'm trying to wring every bit of speed I can out of the vehicle on the flat ground at the bottom.
Nah, not even close. It doesn't like it, does it?
It's no nice.
It might not make it, this thing.
Whilst Sean searches through the menus for another option, it's time to see how the Camera Cruise Hilux handles Big Red.
Oh, it's got some go.
With plenty of power and a half-tonne less weight on board than the PHEVs, it's no surprise that the Hilux sails on through.
Alright, I've got one more going. I just found a new mode.
Was the mode called, Hilux did it, the Ranger has to now?
Yeah.
The Ranger is marketed on uncompromising capability, but it turns out the Big Red might just be too much for it.
that much more.
And once again, it's James to the rescue.
Sometimes there's just so much technology behind some of these vehicles and it's designed to keep you safe on the road, but it doesn't really work off-road. Now, there's probably a way to turn it off. We've turned traction control, ESC, all that off. We're in low range. We're even in the sand mode at high range. There's nothing I can do anymore that'll get that vehicle up there, other than put it behind maybe a Land Cruiser and tow it up.
All right, here we go.
The mighty Ranger.
The hybrids have survived their run into the desert, but it won't surprise you to learn that none of them returned very impressive fuel figures, consuming around 20 to 23 litres per 100 in the sand, far more than any of the diesels in the convoy.
Now, we have a big job ahead of us. We need to compile all the results. And to do that, I think I've got a place in mind. It's just up the road from here. In fact, we can get a nice cleansing ale and really get a bit of thought going tonight. That is the Birdsville Hotel. Let's go down there, work it out, and see how all the vehicles are fared up. The boys are excited. So am I.
There's no better way to finish an epic adventure than at the iconic Birdsville Hotel. But we've got a big decision to make. Which petrol hybrid came out on top? And can they compete with a turbo diesel?
Well, boys, I'm going to say a massive cheers to start this off.
Boys.
Jocko, I want to throw to you first. I think one of the main reasons why somebody would want to buy one of these vehicles is because of a cost saving, because they're, at the end of the day, they use hybrid technology, battery, EV technology.
Yep.
Do you save money owning one of these vehicles?
I don't think so. Towing, driving around, off-road, they're pretty similar to a standard dual cab. Sometimes the standard dual cab we had on test by comparison was getting better fuel figures. Around town, yeah, it would probably be good for just your short commute to and from work, you know, where you're running on the battery. But once you deplete the battery, that poor little engine's working hard to charge it back up again, and you're just using more fuel. So, I mean, taking the Cannon, for example, I was driving around not towing, around 11, 12 litres per 100. If I switched it to the hybrid, it was around 10.7, so it's pretty much the same as a diesel dual cab.
This is the whole thing. I think the technology idea is great, but the reality of how it works out practically is not quite there. The other thing I think to keep in mind as well is you buy a ute. Why do you buy a ute? Because you want to put stuff in the back of it typically, right?
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems is that the technology of this battery actually interferes with the GWM of the vehicle. What I mean by that, they're so heavy, these batteries, it really takes the payload down on these vehicles. So you can't carry as much. And your vehicle's quickly overloaded. Probably the worst example was your vehicle.
It was sitting at 3.2 and pretty close to GVM, which means by the time I add gear to go away with my mates for a weekend or throw a load in the back to go to the tip, you're pretty much at or over GVM, which...
What about when you put the caravan on?
Yeah.
We throw to you, Jamie, for a second, for about the off-road ability of these vehicles. You're in the Ranger, and we had a couple of dramas with that one. Would you say that the amount of technology can sometimes be a bit of a hindrance off-road?
Yeah, I think so, because ultimately the Ranger throws itself into auto EV, so you've got no choice of selecting normal power mode, so you can't just drive on the petrol engine, and it loses power when it needs power. So ultimately it's a bit of a hindrance.
You're a bit of a tech head, right?
Sure.
You love your technology, yet you drive a GQ, figure that.
That's technology.
But would you convert to one of these hybrid electrics?
No, I wouldn't. Mainly due to the range anxiety that we've already discussed. And the other thing is reliability. So, you know, too many electronics create weak points in the vehicle. And that's one of the reasons why I've got a 35-year-old car, because it's lasted 35 years and it will continue to do so.
Now, I guess one of the other reasons why somebody would buy a ute is because they're a tradie. And as you worked as a tradie in a previous life.
Yeah.
Now,
chippy.
I guess the way they market these vehicles, having access to 240 volts in the back, will be fantastic on a job site, right?
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I don't think the benefit's there right now.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future, but you know, another thing you got to think about is the weight carrying capacity and ability.
Yeah.
Most tradies are putting a train canopy on there, loading it up with tools. There goes your GVM, basically, you jump in it.
Yep.
And then that extra money spending it on an epic 12 volt system is going to get you a lot further than one of those 240 sort of setups in.
So that's a valid point. Everyone's seen the bells and whistles of the 240 volt system and the benefit of that, and I thought it was fantastic in that. But you can do that in any vehicle if you put a couple of $1,000 into a good 12 volt system.
Another thing as well, like you blokes, I've been following you in a Land Cruiser, and sometimes it's taken 45 minutes to charge these things up.
Yeah.
As a chippy going from site to site, sometimes you can't afford to waste that time. You might have to get up at 5 o'clock to go somewhere to charge it, to get to the hardware store at 6 o'clock, to get to the job site at 7 o'clock.
Particularly if you need to use the battery for, if you're using it for power tools or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's just not there yet.
I think overall, what I'm seeing with these vehicles, and this is my opinion on this, is it's a little bit of a false economy. It is a false economy in the sense that all the great things you want out of a ute are not quite there. It's the technology is a great idea, but in reality, I don't think it quite pans out with these vehicles. Okay, I'm gonna put a bit of a hypothetical out there. You have to buy one of the 3 PHEV vehicles. Which one do you put your money on? Jamie?
Ranger.
Az?
Probably the Ranger as well.
I don't like that I'm saying it, but it'd be the Ford Ranger.
BYD Shark.
Ranger Shark? I'm so stuck in the middle of those 2 vehicles, it's not funny. I'd probably go the Shark. If you own one of these vehicles, don't despair. I think they're fantastic. I came into this trip thinking I wasn't going to make it. Maybe that vehicle would end up on a tow truck, and I'm very, very impressed in just how well it did off-road.
We've got the Birdsville.
We've got the Birdsville. We're having a beer in the pub. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. We all had the time of our lives off-road. So I think, as you know, even though they do have their limitations, these are serious vehicles, and as that technology gets better, I think we're all going to benefit out of that.
I agree.
Yeah. But the big question I put out to you guys, what do you think of petrol hybrid electric vehicles? Would you own one? Please let us know in the comments below. There's going to be some cracker comments down there, mate.
I reckon.
Well, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Full Drive 24/7. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Been a cracker, eh?